Hi there, I am Cynthia Kolis. Welcome to the Dressing Up podcast, where we talk about all things bridal, dresses, and general dressing up topics. I love to encourage women to dress up while expressing their personal style with confidence on how to do so. Visit sarahkolis.com to book a bridal alterations fitting or even inquire about designing the custom couture bridal gown of your dreams. I'm so excited to talk to you about this next topic. Let's get started. Okay, do you want to introduce yourself?
This is not my thing, but I can answer a simple question. I'm your mother, and I just mentioned to you a moment ago, I think you need a different mother.
That's terrible.
Okay.
What's your name?
Oh, Cynthia. Cynthia McCook.
Okay.
I'm your dad, Cynthia Kolis.
Okay, great. Okay, so I have you on the podcast today. This is your big debut. How do you feel about that?
Big debut.
On the podcast.
I've been on the podcast before, right?
Which one?
Dad and I think.
No.
About your wedding. No.
No.
I've been on the podcast.
Oh, you're on another podcast, not mine.
Okay, well, okay, this is the first one, first and last. That's nice.
But first and last.
Yeah.
We'll see about that.
Okay.
So I have a couple of topic ideas for today. Do we want to talk about, well, we definitely have to talk about the sewing expo. So we'll get to that at some point. We could talk about my wedding dress. We could talk about your creativity growing up, teaching me what I know. Or we could talk about Melissa's wedding, talk about Angela's wedding coming up.
I talk about you.
Oh,
and
okay.
about when you were little. What questions should we go about when you were little?
Oh, okay. Yeah, learning to sew and all that.
Yes. I'll tell the story about you and your wanting the book. Do you want to talk about that part, about how I would buy you the origami book?
The very beginning.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to tell the story about how I learned how to sew. And we're going to start, I guess, from the very beginning.
Yes.
So I was born.
Yeah, and then you grew up in second grade.
Not second grade.
What grade was that?
No, it was way before. It was before I was in kindergarten we got that book.
No. Well, okay, so now we're at the book fair. Talk about the book fair and how you got the book.
So my mom did not know how to sew, so she did not teach me how to sew, but I have an Aunt Diane who sparked my interest. So I'd watch her sew at her house, and I really wanted her to teach me, but I was clearly too young, and I think she even, if my memory is correct, I even think she made a comment at one point that my hands weren't quite agile enough. So to prove to her that I was ready, I did something off on my own. Mom, you took us after dance class one day to the toy store.
Okay.
Down there in downtown Milford, which is still there today, the little toy store down there. And I got, you told us all we could get a toy. And instead of a toy, I got a book that taught you how to sew. Hand stitches, like little tiny projects. So I decided I want to get that and take matters into my own hands. So I hand sewed a strawberry shaped pincushion to give to Aunt Diane as a gift, which was very loving and thoughtful, but I had other motives, which was to prove to her that I was ready for her to teach me more. So then sure enough, after that, she said, okay, Sarah, you ready?
And Aunt Diane came over, sat in the dining room, worked with you.
No, that's after.
Okay.
So the first time I ever used a sewing machine, I remember very well because she put me on her lap and she let me kind of like guide some fabric through the machine. But I remember being extremely frustrated because she wouldn't let me do the foot pedal because I couldn't reach it. The foot pedal was on the floor and my feet weren't long enough to hit the floor. So she did the foot pedal and I just pushed the fabric through. And I'm like, okay, it's a start. It's a start. I mean, I was a little kid. You for safety reasons, she shouldn't have let me do the foot pedal. So that was good on her part. But I remember that moment first using the sewing machine.
Okay, but my value of you is in second grade, went to the book fair. You wanted the origami book.
That's way later.
But that's part of what we're going to discuss.
Should we go in order or not?
No, just as I randomly.
Okay.
I got to say, with your sewing, you wanted that book. I didn't want to buy it for you.
No, I want the audience to know that we're pushing on ahead here and we're talking about an origami book. Now we're past the sewing book. This is a different book.
Okay. Origami.
Go ahead.
And second grade, one of their books. I usually buy them everything that they want, but the problem was when I buy you something, you cannot go home and tell dad what we bought.
Oh, no.
Because then why'd you buy him that? How much was it? We just didn't need all that commotion.
Mm-hmm.
So otherwise I'd buy you girls the world, and you wanted the origami, and I thought you're just too little. You can't figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you being Sarah figured it out, got the origami. And so I gave in, fine, here you go. You got the origami book.
Well, I'll tell my version at this point. We can continue on with your side, but I need to interject here because there's part of that that's not fully accurate, part of that story, because we bought the book and you looked down at me and I think you maybe even pointed your finger down at me and you said, fine, I'll get you this book, but do not ask me any questions.
I'm sorry if it did that. I don't recall that, but it might be.
Okay, well, that was my perception anyway.
Your sister in tow and two younger babies
I
in
understood.
tow.
I
was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And we got you, and you just did a wonderful job on the origami book, how you just figured that 3-dimensional sense that you have. Origami, you figured it out. I didn't help you. You asked me once to help you. That's a sad story. We don't want to talk about that. How I denied
Okay,
you.
fine. Okay, fine. I won't go into details on my side of the story because it's just mom's one maybe not so awesome parenting moment that actually taught me a lot because it forced me to do it on my own.
But so I'm so proud of you. And that's how your sewing continued, because you had such a knack for picking up things so quickly. And Diane bought you knitting classes. You went to that. The staff was so impressed how you just picked up everything so quickly. And then you're knitting. And yeah, one day in the family room, you're knitting and no big deal. And the sun goes down, it's dark, and I'm come back through the hallway and hear the tick, tick, tick. Well, the kid's still knitting in the dark. I didn't have time to turn on the light.
You really didn't need to see.
Well, but still, that was pretty amazing at such a young age. I don't know what were you, 4th grade at that point in time. Then you had the 5th grade knitting club.
Yeah.
Just
Mrs. Mardigian.
Mrs. Mardigian, you just picked up quickly how to learn to do things. You just needed to be told once. The knitting, the class lady said you only need to be told once, and you took right out there. So impressed.
They
Never
always
needed
called
to
me
help
a
you.
sponge.
Yep, and exactly. That would be a good word. You're a sponge, and then you go up to Michigan State, and you're in a knitting class.
Yes, I excelled at the knitting class that I had in college.
And the ceramics.
Oh, ceramics, I didn't do very good. I started to catch on towards the end
of it around.
Yes,
here,
I've got
a lot of pieces.
Yeah, ceramics is not my.
You didn't get rid of any of them.
But I've tried everything. I've done all the crafts. You name it, I've done it, except for lace making. I never did that. But everything else, I've done it.
You could have done that too. But then you turned 16. And just
we're really fast forwarding here.
I know.
You missed a lot about buying the sewing machines and all the things.
Yeah, I bought you that. I bought you the one you wanted. The lady helped us, and I did. I helped you with the sewing.
Hold on. Which sewing machine are we going to talk about first?
Which sewing machine? I don't know. Sewing machine's a sewing machine.
Okay, so the mom and dad had me use your guys' sewing machine that you got when you first got married. I think your mom bought it for you or something. I still use that machine to wind bobbins today because the bobbin winder on my machine doesn't work right now. But so then we needed to upgrade to my own machine. So we went to Joann's, you and dad and me, which, you know, I was always shocked. Dad came with us to this kind of stuff, but I mean, it makes sense. You're spending a lot of money on something, so he was going to be there. But like, I don't think he really knew anything about any of it. But I remember the lady showing me the machines that we were looking at. We were looking at this one, and then we were looking at this one, which has the upgrades. So it's a little bit more expensive. So we go to the first one, and I just like loved it. I loved it. Of course, I was listening to her with all the features, but it did have yellow on it with yellow flowers. So I was like, you know, I really want this machine, but she's about to explain to me the upgrades on the next machine. So I'm going to listen to those upgrades, but they better be worth it to not get these yellow flowers. So sure enough, she explains the upgraded machine. And I was truly like, you know, I don't think I need those features. Like I already knew enough about sewing at that point to know what I needed and knew what I didn't. And it was more money. And of course, dad and you were telling me, you know, get the one you want. Don't think about price. Like, which one do you want? And I'm like, didn't tell anyone at the time why, but I was like, you know what? I need this one, the one with the yellow flowers. So I still have it in the back storage room, but that's kind of the funny story about buying that machine. So that's really what I learned a lot more on. And that's what I would take to sewing classes in the summer. There was always the 4th of July, which my birthday is July 6th. So it often started on my birthday. The sewing like week-long camp that we do at the rec center or whatever. It always kind of fell around my birthday, which I loved. So I'd bring my sewing machine to that. And mom would always talk to the teacher ahead of the class and told them like she's advanced, like please just let her do what, please teach her as much as you can. And I don't know what you said.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was good.
But you made sure I was taken care of because
Yeah.
you didn't know how to sew, but you made sure you got me to the people that could teach me.
That was important.
You did
yes.
very, very good at that. I did
Yeah.
all of the kids' classes, Joanne's, the summer camps at the rec center. And then I started to outgrow those a little bit.
Yeah.
And then what'd you do? You went to Joanne's with some dresses.
I went to Joanne's and put you in some more classes that weren't such child classes. I really needed you into an adult class because you were well up to that level and they would not accept you. They are like,
You had to be 18 or older.
Yeah, had to be. I like this kid mentally is 18 and older on her skill, but they would not take her. So I've got, look at this, look at that. I've got all these dresses there to prove that she had the ability. You had the ability.
Mhm.
Nope, couldn't do it.
I had zippers in them and everything
Oh,
at
yeah.
that point. I was
It was
in 4th grade, 3rd or 4th grade at this point. Because I know because Vicky helped me buy the serger, which was right before the summer, right before 5th grade.
So at that point in time, and I'm standing there, and this lady, you kind of wonder, does God intervene here and just kind of put you together?
Yep, you're
Like I could have
Joanne.
shown up a half hour earlier, half hour later. So now this lady comes in and says, "Oh, did you make these?" Well, I wanted to say yes, but no, I didn't. My daughter, my 4-year-old daughter.
Now this is while you were
Oh,
arguing with the woman at the
yes.
counter to get me into
I'm
the
just
adult
standing
classes.
at the counter.
And then
yeah.
this random woman walks up to
Yeah.
you and asks you about these
Yes.
dresses.
So she was impressed. She does all the sewing, made her husband's tux for the wedding, all that.
Vicky was much older and more experienced with sewing.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
So I took her over to her house over in Plymouth, and she taught you the quality to sewing and enjoyed having you so much and how your interest was in sewing, and it wasn't just a quick fling of you enjoying sewing. You just absorbed it and absorbed the quality lessons that she taught you.
That's something
That was-
Vicky taught me was quality and about how you should have quality and how you get to quality, where before I was just trying to make the thing to be able to put it on my body. And
Yeah.
that was great.
She was wonderful and just amazing. It just walked into our lives.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah. So I started sewing with Aunt Diane. We started with making doll dresses, Madeline doll dresses.
and she gave you the Madeline doll
Yeah,
when you were
she
5 years
did.
old.
Yep, she gave me my Madeline doll that I loved growing up. But actually, before that, before I could even sew, I used to take computer paper and draw a dress on the computer paper, and then I'd cut it out, and then I'd put it on Madeline, one on the top, one on the bottom, and staple her into the dress. I wouldn't staple her, I'd staple the paper, but I'd create dresses out of paper before I could have the ability to sew. And I was just so anxious to learn how to make the actual things. But the paper versions, I was like, wow, this looks amazing. Like, I love this so much. But then I'm like, but how does she get in and out of it? This is a one-time dress. I had to rip it off of her. Like, so sewing's much better. Zippers are great and all that. But so I started with sewing Madeline's doll clothes, and then I sewed my own clothes. That was really the next step. I, of course, sewed all the little tiny projects and things, but my passion always was clothing, no matter what. Like, I wanted to do clothing. I knew that, especially dresses. I loved wearing my tutus and things to ballet class. I just loved all the frilly dresses and everything. So I was very much a girly girl.
Well, sewing that summer, we were in Florida, and I took some of the towels and made Madeline a bathing suit because we were desperate for something.
Yeah.
It just happened to be right there. She had her,
yeah. So I was a very crafty, crazy kid. I knew better than to tell some of my friends and classmates. I knew it wasn't cool, but it didn't stop me from doing it at home and all that. So
my dining room.
Your dining room was taken over. Yeah, so when we saw Vicky, then you guys got me a rolling carrier for my sewing machine. So that was
Yes.
really exciting. So we'd put my sewing machine in the little carrier, we'd gather up all my little sewing supplies, it was all organized, and then we'd show up to Vicky's place and I'd get my sewing machine out, and I don't know how many hours I would be there at a time. Do you remember?
Probably an hour and a half.
Oh, really? It wasn't that
I
long.
don't know. Maybe 2 hours.
Okay.
It's funny how time gets away with us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Lose track.
I went to her maybe like once every other week or something
Yeah,
for
it
a
wasn't-
while.
it wasn't-
Yeah, and it wasn't like many years long. It was a couple years, I think.
yeah.
But I made a bunch of stuff with her, but then also in between, like obviously, like I finished my project that we were working on. I needed to keep myself busy, so I'd make another thing or two and then show up to her and show her what I made. So like every time I finished a project, I couldn't wait until the next class to start a new one. So I just kept doing it as much as I can, especially in the summer. The summer I was just sewing all the time. But yeah, what else?
Yep. Dining room. Last set table in the dining room was nice for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so, and I'm going to be explaining this in the next magazine that I'm having launched, but we started in the basement. My sewing room started in the basement.
You cut things off the floor.
I
didn't you? Or
did.
everything on the floor?
Yeah, I even remember my sewing machine being on the floor. I mean, all the way up through college, really. There were sometimes I'd sew on the floor. People do that sometimes in emergency, but you had set up a gorgeous sewing space down in the basement before it was finished. Do you remember that?
Not at all.
Not at all. Oh my gosh. We had a table, you had a whole bookshelf for me with all my sewing books and all my sewing supplies, which wasn't much at this point. I wasn't a fabric hoarder yet. And you had the carpet underneath. It was like this clean, beautiful, like pristine
Yeah, what a
little
good
space.
mom she
You were
was to you.
great. I swear I only had it for like 3 weeks because then Dad had me pack it all up
Uh-huh.
because that's where they were digging out for the bathroom. So they dug up the concrete and start renovating the basement. But the renovation took a very long time. So in the meantime, I was sewing in your dining room, which is
Yes.
why I was there for so much of my childhood, because that I did have that space for a tiny little bit, and then we renovated it. And then by the time I graduated college, you finally finished the basement and you actually made a room for me down there for sewing in the exact same spot that original spot was. Yep. And then that's where I really started my business. Well, of course, on your dining room table, I was doing t-shirt
I felt bad. I felt bad about the dining room table when the holidays came. that
Oh,
you had
yeah.
to clean that up. And
It was
I was
necessary.
totally content with it being that way. That was
Yeah.
her creativity space. That was fine. And at Christmas, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, had to clean that off. But it was a lot of work for you, but you did it. But otherwise,
It was necessary to like start fresh again. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it just gets messy.
yeah.
Yeah, but just for holidays, you'd have your
Yeah.
dining room table. But you have it back now. What's it like having a dining room table? Is it nice?
Oh, yeah, I got things on it right now, trying to get ready.
You got your own craft projects on it?
Oh, my own craft projects going, get ready for the holidays. But and I tell you, hear it all the time. Tell everybody you made your first week of clothes for 5th grade.
Yeah. Okay,
But-
let's back up a tiny bit. So I'm working with Vicky. This was like I don't remember when we started, but I know it was definitely through 4th grade. And then we decided, my dad still asks me this today. Do you have all the equipment you need? You need the right equipment. You need the right equipment. So he's asking, okay, what kind of equipment do we need? And, you guys are asking Vicky, what kind of equipment does she need? And she mentioned maybe a serger.
Mhm.
So for those of you that don't sew, a serger is kind of like, if you have like a knit top on, like your little t-shirt, if you look on the inside seam, it's like that loopy looking thread that's a serger stitch. So I remember Vicky helped us pick that one out. And I remember it being just about $500 at the time.
Cheap.
And this was back in, what would that be, like 2004, 2005 timeframe. So we got that serger, and that was really exciting. But it and I felt it at the moment, it really went to show how invested you two were in my sewing. Like it felt good to know that you guys are investing in this, which means I'm doing a good job, which means I want to keep going. And yeah, so the serger was awesome, but it was a lot of money, and
It didn't matter. We weren't gonna hold you back.
I said this last night, but there were some times that you wouldn't get me a sticker pack at the grocery store.
Okay, the sticker pack at the grocery
No,
store.
we don't have to go into it. But my
Okay,
point
I
being,
always bought whatever your girls wanted. but you wanted this sticker and that sticker, fine. Then you wanted this one and this
Okay.
one and this one.
My
So-
point being, I thought that we like couldn't afford such a crazy
Yeah.
sewing machine, but the fact that you guys bought that for me was just like, oh my God, this is the most expensive thing ever. Like I can't imagine anything costing more than this.
Yes.
So yeah, so that was great. So then that summer learned a lot, got the serger, made a bunch of outfits for myself all summer and my little sisters. I started making them
Yeah.
stuff.
Your
Angela
friends'
Melissa.
pajamas.
I made my friends' pajamas and aprons and things. There was one year I made all of my friends an apron for their birthdays. I don't know where they all ended up, except for I know Hannah Mouch and her mom still have that apron. Yeah, she said,
Wow.
I think she said, even said she still uses that. I altered Hannah's wedding dress just recently, so they mentioned that. But anyway, it's probably awful looking. Like that was before I had quality and all that. But anyway, so that's that particular summer between fourth and fifth grade, I started to get really good, and I was able to make good clothes. And so yeah, I showed up to fifth grade with a whole new wardrobe. Whole first week of school, I made every outfit. I didn't tell anyone except for my teachers. My teachers were just gaga over it, just loved it. But I'm like, shh, don't tell anyone. But
There was
yeah.
a day you felt you had nothing to wear to school, so 8:30 at night. Had to start on,
I
how
don't
you could
remember
not
that.
have
What
anything.
outfit?
Nothing. You just didn't have anything. I'm like, are you serious? Look in this closet, all this stuff. No, you needed this skirt made or whatever, shorts,
Do you
something
remember what
made.
year that was?
No, I don't, but here you whip, starting at 8:30 at night, whipped up something and had it ready and wearing it the next day to school.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. And I remember another story. I can't remember if this was before or after I started working with Vicky. I have a feeling it was probably before, but I remember making this cute little skirt. I had a yellow tank top that I made with purple butterflies and dragonflies on it. And then to go with it, I had a coordinating purple skirt I was making. And the skirt has like this nice crisp, like 90-degree corner on it that had like, oh, I'm sure there's a term for it. Had like that little inside out clean seam on that 90-degree angle. And I, for the life of me, could not figure it out. I could not figure it out. It just stumped me. I woke up the next morning. Okay, let's look at it again. You couldn't help me, which again, I think this is why I got so good, is because you wouldn't just step in and do it if I was struggling, because you couldn't. Yeah, so I had to figure it out myself. And I remember the score, I couldn't do it. And I wonder, I want to go back and look at the instructions now, because sometimes there's little like typos or things that are wrong with pattern instructions. I have found issues before as I got older. So I wonder if there was an issue there or not, or if my brain just couldn't fathom it at the time. But you you drove right then and there, call up Heidi Dean.
Oh. I
And
do
you're
remember
like,
something
Sarah,
with
come
Heidi.
over
Yes.
right now. This is
This
an emergency.
Yes, it was. I totally forgot all about
I mean, I
She jumped in
couldn't
the
wait
car.
another day.
Yes.
I couldn't. So this had to be done right now. And you always made sure I got where I needed to go. You always
Yes.
made sure of that. So we went over to Mrs. Dean's house, and I don't know if was sewing a lot at that point, but she knew a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So she showed me exactly what to do. And as she was doing it, she was showing me with her finger. I was such a shy kid too. I probably hardly talked to her. But as she was doing it, like my mind was just blown. I'm like, oh my God, that's how you do it. Okay, great. So that was just like a huge challenge for me that I was really happy to overcome. I love skirts still to this day. I have a couple skirts that are the exact same design as that original skirt I made my bachelorette party dress. Do you remember my bachelorette party? It was
Yes. Oh, yes.
yeah, it was like a little jump.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that was
was white,
exactly
yeah.
that. Yeah. And then I made Melissa for her bachelorette party, not like the main night, but just as one of the other outfits she wore that weekend was a skirt jumpsuit type of thing. It was adorable. And remember that pink floral vintage cottony fabric?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was all of her things, but that one was not totally white.
Right. That one had some pink. I mean, Melissa's a pink girl. But anyway, so then I made all my clothes the first week of school in fifth grade. I continued on. I made my, what was it, confirmation dress or something. I remember making it so far in advance because you need time to be able to work on it. And you just thought that was like absurd that I worked on it like 2 months before the thing.
That part I don't remember.
Really? I remember you like you always had your stories you always tell people when you see them,
Yeah.
and that was one of them that I just got it done so quickly and
Yeah.
ahead of schedule.
time.
So I wasn't scrambling at the last second. And I had like a cute little like lace jackety thing on, a bolero.
Don't
Yeah.
remember that one.
And then what else? What other like fun projects did I do? Should I go grab my binder? I have my old binder of all my old projects.
Yeah.
So I grabbed my binder that I
Yes.
created once I was much older, but I gathered up all the photos of all the things that I made when I was younger. So we're just gonna like flip through some of them just for fun. So
Okay.
this is all pre-college
Oh, she's got a bunch of knitted scarves. Oh, made them for everybody one Christmas. Everybody she could think of.
Yeah. I did. I just cranked out a bunch of scarves for like all my aunts. I remember in particular, I made one for every single aunt, and I chose colors based off of like what I thought of their personalities and everything. I made myself sweaters. So weird. I grew out of them so quickly. It took so much time. I did a little bit of quilting. Quilting was a very tedious, long, big project. So I didn't do a whole lot of them, but like little things like lunch bags and skirts
I
and
forgot
things.
about the lunch bags.
Yeah, I loved those.
Yeah.
Mom would make sure my stuff was entered into the Michigan State Fair. This was one of my favorite dresses. It's a hot pink, a dress with a couple tiers. It's all in boxes. I have them all these things. I didn't get rid of anything, which is like too much, but always got good place and honorable mentions and things like that. Lots of bags. I did the Capri Sun purse. I did the jean purse thing.
Where's the jean purse? I'd like that.
Yeah.
Give that to
I am
Melissa.
sure I have it somewhere. Oh my gosh, that looks.
Oh, that's adorable.
Oh God. I made a coat for
this
you once
coat-
out of just fleece. It was
Okay.
terrible, but you seem to like it.
So nice. And then it's in the front hall closet. And I
Number
do. If a
4.
visitor comes over and we're sitting outside
Mhm.
on a nice day, I go grab
Yeah.
that. If somebody happens to be a little chilly.
It's a little snuggly.
Yeah, there's Madeline.
Okay, so I got really good at knitting and crocheting, so much so that, what is this, 2006?
So you
I would have been 12.
Yeah.
I was fully making my own knitting and crocheting patterns at this point. Nothing like wildly crazy, like big sweaters for people and things like that. But with Madeline, I could make any shape, anything. And this was the year that we went out west for 2 weeks in the car with 3 sisters, 2 parents, and an uncle. And I needed to keep myself preoccupied from going crazy. So I brought my yarn and my knitting needles, my crochet needles. I just whipped out all these clothes for my Madeline doll.
Okay.
Yep.
There was a problem. We ran out of fabric.
Not fabric, yarn.
Whatever you needed, supplies.
Yes.
And the kids started
2-week trip.
Screaming in the back seat. Joanne's quick.
Every time I saw Joanne, if I ran out of something I needed, I would stare out the window at every exit to see if there was a Joanne's, and then quick. And I'm screaming because I was sitting in the far back seat. And I needed to make sure you guys heard me and got over in time because we needed to go to Joanne's right. This was 2 weeks. I couldn't just not continue projects for 2 weeks. I needed to keep moving. I made stuff for my little sisters. So these were some dresses for my little sister Angela, who's getting married next June.
She liked purple.
She was a purple girl. I made myself some dresses. I loved this one, this cute little halter, this tulip fabric. Oh, wasn't that so pretty? I used that fabric a couple times in a couple different colors. I did Swedish stitching. I bet none of you know what that is. But Vicky taught me that, just like some more kind of like embroidery techniques.
More clothes.
More clothes for myself. I made myself a cute dress, this purple one, Mom, down here. This I wore to a bar mitzvah. And I remember I felt so good in that dress. I was like, wow, loved it.
Well, doesn't every event people go, oh, did you make your dress? Everybody that knows you.
Everybody does.
And how do you respond to somebody when you didn't make the dress? How do you respond?
It's so depressing.
But so a lot of pressure is on.
A lot of pressure is on to make something. Yeah, that was in 2008. And I did tell people at that time that I did make my dress. And I think that was the first time that I like told people that I made my outfit. And like the first time I saw people's reactions, like at a party, and people are like, you made it? And this is the question people often ask. They find out you made your outfit and they say, how? How the heck am I supposed to answer that question? How? Well, you want to come over to my house? I'll teach you. Like, I don't know how to answer that question into words. Like, are you kidding me? So that was kind of funny. And I think that's when I started realizing that sewing and knitting and crochet and all these things was not a normal hobby.
No.
No, it wasn't. When I was growing up, none of my friends knew how to sew. Well, Michaela did for a little bit. That was super fun, but that didn't last super long. um, but I just thought that there's definitely other little girls out there that sew like I do. It just so happens that my friends don't. So I was like, what a coincidence that none of my friends know how to sew. Like there's all these sewing, but then the older I got, the more I was like, you know what? Maybe I am kind of the only one. Maybe it's
And
just
your
me.
sisters weren't even in.
No, I tried to teach them. It didn't work. Okay, so more, got a cute
More
little
stuff.
blouse from,
Who is this?
oh,
2008.
okay, so we're getting into some more dresses. Okay, this is the confirmation. Was it confirmation? No, what's,
No, it would have been confirmation. First Holy Communion. we
okay,
would've
so it
just
must have
bought
been like
it.
a reception or something for getting
Oh, just the whole
confirmed. Okay,
confirmation.
the whole,
you
yes,
know,
this
just
is what I
the-
wore to the church. Okay, this is
Yeah.
that dress I was talking about earlier. Had this lace overlay, so that was a challenge. This is actually kind of very bridal, so maybe that was my first dabble into that. Did these, I did win some Michigan State Fair sewing competitions solely because I was the only person that entered that category. But first place is first place, am I right?
Yeah.
Loved that shirt, loved this dress. Oh my gosh, cute little green satin halter. I did a lot of halters. Made my dress always for the cheerleading banquets.
Oh, yeah.
I made this one a bunch of times. That one,
Oh, you had time for cheerleading, for
art in high
gymnastic.
school. So Mrs. Harvey was my high school
Okay.
art teacher, but also my elementary school art teacher. So she kind of followed me up. The timing worked out great that she was also my high school art teacher along with Mrs. Harbar. So they had like the art program art fair every year at the Civic
Yeah.
Center. So I entered stuff into that.
They were great.
And Billy and I made the front page of the newspaper
Mhm.
one year looking at art from that. Super fun. Let's see, what else do we have in here? This stuff is so old and terrible, but
you organized it right from the beginning. You
it's
just don't
always
wait.
organized. Oh, I love this. Okay, so Billy and I started dating when we were 15. We knew each other at 4. I actually knew him younger. We met at 14, dating at 15. So we started dating September 20th of 2009. And I was too embarrassed to tell him that I sewed because I knew by that point this was not a cool hobby to have. So I literally waited a whole 8 months before I told him. Like I even hid my sewing stuff at my
Didn't know
parents'
all
house
this.
so he wouldn't know about it because I didn't want to scare him away. Maybe he would have been better off. But anyway, so then it was not, so that homecoming that he asked me to the first year, I was like, I'm not making my dress because I don't want him to know. So we bought a dress at the store.
This is like a bad thing you're thinking.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
I mean, you don't know. You just don't know.
I
Especially
just-
a teenage boy. Are you kidding me? You wouldn't be impressed by that. So I made my homecoming dress for that would have been the next year, our junior year of high school. I did make my dress because at that point, cat's out of the bag. I can do whatever I want. So that was the cute dress. This cute little.
And how did he respond when he found out you sewed?
Well, I brought it up to him in like such a casual way that I was just like, hey, yeah, oh yeah, by the way, I have like this hobby. Like sometimes, I like just like sew a little bit or whatever. But are you hungry? Do you want to go get food? I changed the subject right away. So so it wouldn't be like this huge announcement or anything. I was just like, yeah, let's just move on. Like you need to know about this, but like change the subject. I don't know what he really thought of it at that time because I wouldn't even let him really talk about it. But now you
I
could ask
didn't even
him.
know this part.
Yeah,
of the
I did
story.
not tell him for a long time. But then by this point I felt comfortable. And Vicky helped me. Was over at our house one day and she helped me figure out all these cute little pleats and everything. Oh, and then you took me to a class to learn how to do fashion sketches. So this is one of my very first
I
fashion
did.
sketches.
Where was that at?
That was at the BBAC.
Oh, yeah, Birmingham.
Yeah, Bloomfield Art Center, I
Center.
think. And that's when I
Yes.
learned all my fashion sketches. That was great.
Oh,
Art class in high school, I did some weird things. I mean, every like young fashion designer has to do her crazy stuff. So I made a dress made out of chip bags. So I turned Chex Mix bags because we ate a lot of Chex Mix at home inside out. So it was all shiny. So it was like this cool, like spacey looking, cute little dress. It was a cute dress. I still have that
I
somewhere.
can see the
It's actually really cute.
horrible picture.
I know. Well, thank you. I didn't know photographers back then.
Mhm.
I did IB art. I don't think I was super great ever at fine art. I just like more three-dimensional art.
Yes.
I'm much
three-dimensional.
better at three-dimensional. A dress made of Band-Aids.
No, that's right.
Crazy, right?
Principal was impressed by that.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Yeah, so Mrs. Harvey, she contacted Curade Bandages Company, got a hold of someone there, and they sent, how much was it? Like 2,000 Band-Aids for free. Like she made this happen. Because I told her what I wanted to do, and she's like, I'll take care of it. And she did. We got some
I didn't
Band-Aids.
know that story either.
Yep. Yep. She was rooting for me.
Did you ever send the Band-Aid company a picture of the dress?
No, in
What?
hindsight, we should have done that, but I
Oh,
was young.
abs.
It's okay. Let's see. Prom. Look at, there's Billy and me and Alex, I guess. His friend Alex. Got a picture of all three of us there. Cute little prom dress. That's fun. This fall coat I wore for years. That was super, super cute. Wore all through college.
Say I don't remember that, but that was probably because you're in college.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just skipping ahead. Okay,
Yeah.
lots of dresses. We don't need to go through everything.
Yeah.
I made Billy a blazer. Oh my gosh, just people ask me, do you do menswear? I honestly, I really don't. I don't like it. Sorry, men, but your clothes just aren't nearly as fun. Very tedious, very repetitive, just not as creative. So I made Billy, my boyfriend at the time, a blazer, which was great. This was 2013, so this would have been right before we went to college. This was right before he started going to the gym. Okay, right before. This blazer fit him perfect. 2 months later, he grew out of it. So all that hard work, it took forever.
Good practice. Good practice.
Well, it made me
to
realize I
realize-
don't like menswear.
Yes.
Good
lesson.
But it looks nice on him. That looks nice. Oh, some crazy
Yes,
projects in
yes,
college. I
yeah.
could do a whole nother episode
Yeah.
just on college stuff, but we'll go ahead and skip ahead. But that was fun. Anything else? Any other stories, Mom?
No, you're great. You're wonderful.
Oh, thank you. So
Yeah. Everyone's got their talents. That's yours.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your
What's
sisters
yours?
have a oh, needlepoint. Yeah.
Say it louder for the crowd. please.
Needlepoint.
One more time.
Needlepoint.
Oh, yay.
And I don't know how much needlepoint I want to do because how many pillows do I need? How many ornaments do I need?
Should we go grab the pillows? Are they right here? Or do you need
Yeah,
upstairs?
no, they're down here.
Well, explain to
It's
them what I'm
okay.
grabbing.
Okay, she's grabbing the pillows that I'm making for their weddings. We got B for Belle when she got married, and S for Schreiber when Melissa got married. And I'm going to do a D for Dombeck for Angela for her wedding. And I've got my own at home letter C for Cynthia. I didn't do, but
Ring bearer pillows.
yeah, can be.
But also just like a wedding
nice,
gift.
nice.
So yeah, Mom's a whiz with the needlepoint. She's
And
a semi-retired substitute teacher, and you
yeah.
do needlepoint. All the kids all know if you went to Nova High School.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
In
high school,
recent
yeah.
years, you might remember Mrs. Kolis.
Yeah, I love doing different stitches on this being a ring bearer pillow. I find that it's best just to have just the solid, simple stitch. I do French knots for the little flowers, but I decided with this one to go with this background blue versus, I know a wedding's white, but you got a long time. I don't know, it kind of looked rounded out. So I thought I'm just gonna try that, see what
Yeah,
happens.
Different.
Yeah, so you put
get
it
custom
into the
items.
pillows. You made them into
Yeah.
pillows.
So you know a gal that's pretty good
Yeah.
at turning them into the pillow
Pillows,
forms.
yeah.
And they always have a little zipper in the
Zipper,
back.
yes, love that.
And the intention is that you would put your vows in there.
Okay, and you asked anything else we need to tell. It's amazing your talent.
Oh,
Sewing, knitting, I loved it. You know, you're decorating the studio, everything. Just your marriage with Billy, how wonderful and how much he puts up with you and all of that. It's just wonderful. And you just pick up things so easily. But I just still can't comprehend when you're 16 years old and you have the car keys sitting at the red traffic light and ask me, well, do I go now? I like how all that knowledge in her
Unrelated,
head.
Mom. So unrelated.
Okay, that's just some things just don't make sense. How could you even think you spent too much sewing in the car to not notice traffic lights and
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't looking out the windows. No. Looking down at my
So,
knitting and my crochet,
yeah, but
whatever
no.
crazy things I was doing. I was always
Yeah.
busy doing something.
Always organized.
Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
my husband and I, we realized what a sad day it was for us when we realized our children are more organized and put together than either of us are. So
I remember you used
that's
to
it.
always brag to your friends that when I started a sewing project,
Oh, you finished it. Yes, I like that. You
I
finished
never
it.
let something go
Yeah,
halfway done.
Yes.
And I would always finish the project before I started the next
Next
one.
one.
I didn't have multiple projects going at once. And that's kind of still how I like to work today. I like to get the whole mess out, complete the project, put the mess away, start the next one. Just
There
'cause
was
that's how
one
I work.
thing I think you started and didn't finish because you realized there's no point in finishing it because you didn't like it. It wasn't working out well. Right?
I
Wasn't
think I
there what?
remember. I think I
But that's
remember.
acceptable to make that choice then.
Yes.
So it was finished.
I think I know exactly what
Okay.
you're talking about because I was experimenting before I was properly trained on pattern making. Way before I
Yeah.
was properly trained, I tried to make my own patterns and I just grabbed some scissors and started cutting fabric out. Do you
Yeah.
think that was the time? I think maybe it was
I don't know.
red. But I was like, yeah, I don't think we need to continue this.
Yeah, and there's no point wasting
Yeah.
time with it if you knew
Mhm.
you weren't gonna learn anything from it or
Yeah.
grasp anything.
There
from it.
actually
So,
was one sweater that I completely finished the project before I realized I had two needles mixed up. So the needle for the collar, the cuffs, and the bottom of the sweater was too large. It was supposed to be smaller than the inside of the sweater, and I got it mixed up. But I had it completely done, like all the threads tied back in, like everything. And then I tried it on, and my teacher's like, "Well, you actually did the wrong needle size." And I was like, "Well, I still completed it." And I did still wear it a couple times because I'm like, I am
which one?
not
Is that
wearing.
the pinkish yellowish?
No, that one was adorable. It was the blue one. I think I held up a photo of
Yeah.
it just now. It really doesn't look that off, but it would have been a lot nicer that
Yeah.
way.
Live and learn.
Yeah, you live and learn. You guys, yeah.
You've accomplished that a lot in all these years.
Yeah.
These quick years flew by quickly and you've got so much.
Yeah.
So much.
Everyone asks me like how did I the common question, right? Everybody at their fittings always asks, so how'd you get into this? And it's like, oh, okay, now I'll send them to this podcast episode. But I always start with saying, like, I swear I was born knowing exactly what I want to do. I'm very fortunate that I never had to question what my life's goals were. Like, I always knew this is where I wanted to end up. Reality did get in the way. Like, once you become a teenager, early adulthood, you're like, okay, maybe that's not practical, Sarah. But here we are.
Well,
Made it happen. I always knew I wanted to do this. Like exactly.
they say, you need to go for your dreams. And I understand that people should, but boy, by God, literally you go for it.
Why wait around?
Why wait around, I guess.
I am just fortunate though that I knew so early on. So like when I had goals in mind, like getting the studio, I could plan for it instead of, being 25 and now finally figuring out what you want to do,
Oh, yeah.
Where you're starting from scratch. I was very
Fortunate,
lucky and fortunate in a lot of ways, especially being born into adulthood with this talent that not many people have. I mean, that was just huge.
Yeah, you weren't just starting now.
Yeah. But yeah, I swear I never didn't know what I wanted. I've always wanted to do this. I always thought, if I could just be good enough, I could work in bridal, but that's reserved.
And I didn't understand that at that time. You showed interest, I would get whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
But with the idea in mind, it's just going to be a fleeting thing, a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
But I was willing for that. That's just a learning situation. And okay, people get guitars, people get this, that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't continue on, but they got some experience. So you continued with that experience.
Yeah. It was hard figuring out how to make a career out of it. Like it's not like I always had the goal of entrepreneurship. Like it found me. I always wanted to sew as my career, but I didn't know how to go about that until I was, in adulthood, and I had to figure out, okay, well, how do I actually make money off of this instead of just doing it for fun? So
I was excited when you got the job at David's Bridal.
Yeah, David's was
they
phenomenal.
were wonderful to you.
They were great.
And you're wonderful to them. So much so they didn't want you answering the phone anymore because they want you. Oh, Sarah, keep sewing.
Keep sewing, Sarah.
Keep sewing, Sarah. Don't answer the
phone. They would say that. They'd be like, Sarah, stay seated. Don't get up.
Don't answer that phone.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Nope.
Yeah. No, that was good times. It was a great group of people I worked with. I just absolutely loved it.
It's so close by here. So just short distance.
So great. So great. I also wanted to give an honorable mention to the rest of my family, which involved my sisters. Colleen didn't get much of the brunt of my sewing hobbies, but Angela Melissa, poor things, had to wear my god awful hideous garments with a smile on their face. They did, but then once they got a little bit older and they're like, okay, Sarah, these aren't actually that cute. Then they would scream and cry and say, no, I don't want to put it on. This was before I had Joe and I didn't have my mannequins, right? My dress form. So I feel so bad about this, but it's fine. But I didn't have dress forms, so I needed a body, right? Even if the body was a little too small. So Angela would have to stand there and I'd be like, don't wiggle. Even if I was making something for myself and I just needed to see it on a form instead of the table, they would always do that. And even poor things, I had them be models for some photographs for some of my college work and things like that.
Oh, what a
They're
fight to
kind of
get
the
them to
worst
do
photos,
that.
but yeah, the poor things had to deal with that. But look at them now.
Wow. Each of you
Having
girls are
short
so
bridal gowns
gorgeous.
made
Yes.
just for them. Everyone always says, wow, they're so lucky to have a sister like you. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know, you got to tell them that though, because, coming from me, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, the most impressive thing is the studio, but the most impressive time walking into your home, your new home here,
Mhm.
and I was in such awe.
Why?
What, 6, 7 mannequins, all with white dresses on for
Oh,
Melissa.
for Melissa.
I was
I
like,
know what
oh,
day you're talking about.
it was just like, I was more impressed. Melissa's like, yeah, nice, like I was unbelievable. Like this dress
Yeah.
right here is
Yeah.
was one of them on
Yeah.
the mannequins here. What was that? The bachelorette, the night of the morning
Rehearsal
breakfast, the
dinner,
rehearsal
brunch.
dinner, it just went on and on and on.
Bridal shower.
And we spent a long
Ro-
time and you had the little wine there for us. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just
Oh, yeah.
us.
I know. I know.
But you wanted her to
People
have the
ask me,
experience.
right? People ask me like, oh, is like, what's making a gown for your sister like in comparison to your other
Mhm.
custom brides that you work with? And honestly, it's not that different. The only thing that's truly, truly different is when we're standing there and I'm trying to pin her and she just like can't take it seriously and we're just giggling and yelling at each other at the same time. And so that part's a little different, but the whole experience of it, I give all my custom brides like a completely insanely awesome experience. And I definitely want to give that to my sisters as well. So that's definitely not something I hold back on. So I just wanted
Yeah.
to really make it special, just like I would for the other.
It's just so impressed.
Yeah.
But it didn't surprise me. It shouldn't have
Yeah.
surprised me.
But yeah, so just making, dresses for my sisters and things. And I try to take care of Colleen when I can, but they all had to put up with all this craziness growing up, which I don't think was too rough, but I do. It wasn't too rough, but I do have to just mention.
It wasn't just a brief
they were there.
season of
No.
trying things on. It was years worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you kept going with it.
I think if you were to ever bring up me and my sewing to my sisters, each one of them would probably start with an eye roll. A nice big eye roll with a lot of food.
Well, but they had it good too. I supported them, whatever.
Yeah.
But they're just quieter. And Angela likes numbers, accounting. Melissa,
Just like
life.
living.
Colleen likes her sports. So.
But yeah, it was a crazy childhood, and I'm thankful I have the parents that I do because I would not be here without you, Mom.
I love you.
Love you too.
You're the bestest.
You're the best. I'm the best one in the entire world.
Yeah. And teach anything, but I'm there to support you.
I mean, without you guys taking me to classes and without you buying me the equipment, I probably would have lost interest eventually because I didn't have what I needed.
But it was your dream since you were real tiny, you said.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm thankful for that. I do also just want to briefly talk about the fact that we were at the sewing expo yesterday, which we've been going to my whole life. Aunt Diane would take me when I was little, and sometimes you would take me. It was the only day out of the entire year where I was allowed to skip school.
Oh, absolutely.
For anything other than a funeral. So yeah, sewing expos and funerals.
Fortunately, not many funerals.
I got my really nice Kai scissors there one year. They were expensive. You want to know what ended up happening to them?
Oh, I think I know. A little sister got a hold of them and started.
A little sister got a hold of them.
Started cutting them on construction paper, maybe just big old cardboard. What'd they do?
They started cutting candy. Candy. You heard that right. Cutting candy. Nerds ropes. Remember nerds ropes? Remember those like sour, like string things, fruit roll-ups, like, I mean, whatever.
For that.
They were great scissors. Before that. Yes. So, oh my God, I was horrified. Yeah. I remember catching them with the scissors near the TV in the family room and
that was your fault.
Candy. It's just like, oh my God, it was awful. But yeah, going to the sewing expo was fabulous. I learned from all these crazy talented women and men as well. But yeah, so we went yesterday and, Mom being the sidekick that she is, really encouraged some people to come back here to the studio in the evening. There's a couple people that are retiring from doing the shows, or at least the Novi show this year. So their last year here. So it was Lorraine Henry, Kathy Rudy, and Joe Vessarelli. So it was just great to have them here. We were just like, oh, you want to see our studio? It's 4 miles away. And so I'm so thankful that they came. And it was so much fun. I got to show them all my sewing stuff and everything.
They picked up Arby's.
Yes. And it's always different giving a tour to people that actually know how to sew, because I feel like it means so much more and they ask all the right questions. It's just amazing. So it just made me feel so good. And I'm so thankful for having those people in my life and to have had the perfect timing for them to come see the studio before they're retired.
Yeah, this could have been all done next year and they would have missed it. Yeah. So it was just timing was perfect.
Timing was perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, this was a fun episode. I hope if you guys are still listening, thank you for still being here. By the way, if you are still listening and you want to show support, just rate and review the podcast. It never hurts, especially with having Cynthia Kolis on today, a very special guest. We would love if you would give us some feedback in that way.
Thank you. Here, let's do it like this.
No, she keeps trying to scoot herself out of the frame. Mom, we all want to see your face.
Yeah, there I am. Okay.
But this won't be the last time you're on the podcast. Wait, Mom, I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm so glad I didn't forget. Do you know what the question is that I ask all of my podcast guests? What is your favorite item in your closet right now?
My Snuggie pajama.
Your favorite pajamas?
No, my favorite Snuggie. I call it my Snuggie at night. Just snuggle.
Okay, we don't have a fashionista on our hands, ladies, okay?
There's got to be something. Ask me that next time.
Okay.
Let's repeat the question. Go take a look.
Mom likes dressing for comfort.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah, it does. I like your little sweaters, and we're getting into your poncho season. So you like your ponchos and wrap.
Oh, I like my wrap. I did get it at the sewing expo one year. Yes. Yeah. Got a little Burkell and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, so fancy.
Oh,
you look so dressed up.
Yeah.
Ooh, I want to tell the crowd just one fun tidbit about you.
Yeah.
In regards to fashion. What is one thing you've never worn in your entire life?
Exactly what you're wearing right now. Blue jeans. I've never owned blue jeans, never worn blue jeans, never tried on blue jeans. We just don't grew up at a time where we were not allowed to wear blue jeans. And so I just never did. But going to all the Catholic schools and stuff too.
You had a uniform.
I had a uniform, you know.
But still, what American woman has never put blue jeans on before in their life? I think you're the only one. I cannot imagine there's
and and I was not allowed to. My mother enforced that between my sister and I. I got a picture of my cousin, and then at one of the tailgates came up concerned because don't want my mother to see that I'm wearing blue jeans. So it ran in her family as well. It is something. Well,
so
5 years ago, my mother's was 90 at the time, going to be 95 soon, and she was so excited. She got her first pair of blue jeans. Look at this!
She's breaking her own.
I was not happy.
You're like, all these years.
Yeah, all these years. So, no blue jeans. That's fine.
No blue jeans.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode has allowed you to approach the world with greater confidence in your own personal style. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out through email or the inquiry form on the website. I hope you are all ready to go and get dressed up. I look forward to sharing more dressing up tips with you in future episodes. Thanks so much.